Hi, I'm Jennifer Schell, host of iNwine and author of the BC Wine Lovers Cookbook. Today my friend Tammy Renard is visiting from Pemberton. She was also my chief recipe tester for the cookbook. We're going to be cooking one of our favorites. It's a stout beef pot pie. So let's get started. Okay, first we're going to add the flour and the salt and pepper to a bowl. A little pepper, please, Tammy.
Look at that.
Nice.
There we go.
And a little salt. And we're going to toss the beef in to coat. And the reason for this is that it helps form a little brown crust on the beef. And then when you're stewing it, it makes a thicker sauce. Okay, now we're gonna prep the mushrooms and the onion. Quartering the mushrooms and roughly chopping the onion. Tammy's gonna be doing that part.
Do that.
Yeah, it's so important to have an amazing knife. This Miyabi is so beautiful. I love it. And this knife, I forget the maker of it, but it is an amazing onion knife. Do you love it?
It's a really great knife, and I think I'm going to take it home with me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So what makes this recipe really interesting too is you add the mushrooms and the grainy mustard at the end of the stewing process for 2 hours. And Tammy's made this recipe a few times. It's a family favorite now, isn't it?
Yes, and every time it turns out perfectly. Simple ingredients and very easy to make.
Yay! So now we're ready to brown the meat. We're gonna melt some butter in a lovely little cast iron pan. This stove cocotte is one of my favorites. So now adding the flour covered beef to the bubbling butter, we're going to get a nice brown on these. Make sure you get a nice color on the beef because it's helpful with the sauce and the overall coloring. So there we go. So we're gonna brown this probably for 5 minutes on all sides. So the beef is looking really nice. We're going to take it out. Nice browning going on. And then we're going to saute the onions for 2 to 3 minutes or until they're slightly translucent, little color. So after we saute the onions until they're softened and a little colored, we're going to spoon them onto the beef in a separate bowl, and then we're going to deglaze with the lovely craft beer. So, Tammy, can you grab me one of those beers? Great. Now we can do the exciting deglazing part. Okay, so now that we've scraped up all those delicious brown bits from the bottom of the pan, which adds huge flavor to any stew, we're going to add back the onions and the beef. And get ready to put this baby in the oven. Okay, so after 2 hours, we are going to add the mushrooms and the mustard to the beef. So, teaspoon of grainy mustard stirred in there. And these quartered mushrooms. Thanks, Tam. And give that a stir. And then you're going to put it back in the oven to finish. So as I get this back into the oven, Tammy's going to be preparing the puff pastry crust for this dish. The great thing is you cook them separately and then place them on top of your serving dish. Okay, so the stew is done. It's out of the oven. We've preheated to 425 to cook the puff pastry crusts. So Tammy cut them to size of the dish that you're using and brushed it with milk, and that's it, into the oven. Okay, so voila, Muriel's beef and stout pot pie. Tammy, what is your favorite part of this recipe?
The puff pastry. So it's just so easy to do, and for presentation it looks, you know, really difficult, but and the two go together. The puff pastry and the stew go really, really nice together.
Nice. We also wanted to mention the great thing about this recipe. It's very easy, and you can actually make it a day ahead. Stew is always better the next day. This recipe is actually extra special. It's called Muriel's Beef and Stout Pie because Muriel was Harry McWater's mother. Harry McWaters is a legend in our industry, our wine industry, that we lost recently. And so this is a tribute to him and his mother. And I think we should have some wine. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
So this is the McWaters Meritage. It's the pairing that we have in the cookbook. And it is a gorgeous, full-bodied bread. Love it. Cheers, Tammy.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming to cook with me.
Thanks for having me here.